Welcome to the Trailkings podcast. This is episode 1, and we're going to talk about why we're expanding into the podcast format. Stick around to the end, and we're going to tell who inspired us to do this and why. All right, before we get into why we're expanding into the podcast format, we're going to talk about the other formats that we already have on our YouTube channel where it makes a little more sense for the explanation of the podcast. So right now we have 2 basic formats that we operate with. One is the educational video format that is just straight to the point. You know, those videos are what,
3 to 5 minutes, sometimes 6, yeah.
Yeah. Very short, 3 to 5 minutes, and then, you know, if we're showing you how to do, you know, fluids change or full maintenance on a machine, it's directly to the point, no fluff whatsoever. And the reason why, you know, we like that format is because when I'm searching for something on YouTube, the worst thing that can happen is the title matches what you need. There's like a 27-minute video.
Yeah.
And you don't even get to what you're looking for until like the 22nd.
Yeah, they start out with, oh guys, it's been a bad day. And then I went to the store, and then this happened. Anyways, I'm gonna change this tire.
Exactly. It's just being frustrated with that over the years, it's like, man, let's just get to the point. Right. You know, at the end of the day, if I'm looking for something to fix an issue, I'm not looking to be entertained necessarily. I just want the information. And so that's how that video series is developed, is, you know, if it's something we've had an issue with that we had to research and then figure out the solution, we just show you the bullet points, the highlights. You know, if there's any tips or tricks to the install, we include those. Obviously we don't show you how to take off every nut, every bolt. You know, just the big things that gave us a hard time when we did it. And so that's one of our formats. The other format is more for entertainment and informational. It's our vlog series. You know, that series right now is based around the trips we take to parks across and trail systems across the United States. That one I feel is for more entertaining, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would, and we still try not to just keep them real long. You know, we understand there's so much right in that.
We cut the jibber jabber out.
Yeah, out of a lot of footage, they're probably 10 to 20 minutes somewhere around there.
Yeah.
What we're about now.
We try to keep those at least per episode 10 to 15. If it gets above 20 to 30, you know, I know my attention span a lot of times for a YouTube video is not going to be an hour to sit there, and so. And those videos are also for people new to the hobby that are maybe looking to go ride somewhere and they just don't know the terrain, or if they want to, you know, how dangerous they want to get. And so those videos, in the description of those, are actually GPX files, links to GPX files of the trails that we went down and the places we stop at. We share that for free, and that's just to help out the riding community, because we've both been there where you go somewhere you don't know.
Yeah.
Well, hell, our last trip.
Yeah.
We got in a crazy situation. If you haven't went and watched the Hatfield McCoy series, I would encourage you to do that, because day 3 is that scenario.
Yeah.
We're in a place we don't know. We don't know the terrain. We didn't see any video of the terrain, and got into a little bit of a pickle. And so the vlog series is to help prevent someone with experience or without experience get in a situation they necessarily didn't want to sign up for that day. And so those are our 2 main series right now that we have going for Trailkings on YouTube. And so we'll get into the new format, which is the podcast series. So depending on where you're listening this to, you know, you might be listening on a podcast app. We're going to disperse the audio amongst all the avenues of podcasts that we can to make it as convenient as possible for someone to. Do you subscribe to podcasts?
Sure. We'll go with that. To subscribe to it.
We're neither of us are podcast people, as you can tell.
But I think you do. I think you do.
Yeah. So wherever we can get it out there to, we will, with no hesitation. But we're also going to put this as a video on the YouTube channel, and we'll release it at the same time where it stays in conjunction.
Yeah.
And so the reason why that is I think this format gives us an easier platform just to have a conversation.
Yeah, I agree, because we talked about the educational style is straight to the point.
Yeah.
The vlog series is still, I mean, if we put in all the stuff that we talk about throughout that and our thoughts on this or that trail or this machine or whatever it is, it'd be 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that goes into that, and we try to get it down to just the entertaining stuff and stuff that you find interesting. And so this, I agree, it allows you to see kind of the thoughts behind, what machines we use, or why we did this, or the reason you choose which tools you choose, or whatever it is, and get to know that a little better.
Yeah. I think the other problem, the reason why this wouldn't fit in the vlog series is because those are scheduled out. And usually scheduled in a year in advance or at least 6 months out on where we're going. But sometimes there's just topics that we would like to talk about because that's what the community's talking about, or something that's really fresh to get our thoughts out there about it. I think this format allows us to do that in a more quick fashion than have to wait till a planned trip or something like that.
Yeah.
And so there's many reasons why we feel this is a good format, but please comment below your thoughts on if you think this will be a useful format for us and with the direction of the channel that we're going in.
And also just other things you'd like to see. I mean,
yeah, if there's topics you want us to talk about on the podcast format, please comment them below. We want to get our feedback and input on. We're not mechanics by trade, but we have a lot of experience about screwing shit up and then having to fix it on the trail or not on the trail. And so that's where a lot of our experience comes from. And at the end of the day, we just want to bring value to the riding community and just help out any way we can. Because I remember being super new, even though I grew up in the country in Louisiana, and we grew up around side-by-sides, and we always, as anybody knows, you always got that good country mechanic down the road. But once I moved away, it's like, you got to start learning how to work on your own shit.
All these machines, you have to know how to work on your own stuff.
Exactly. Especially if you want to prevent being broken down on the trail at night and not being able to get off of it. And so let's get to the studio. We don't have this fancy studio. We're not podcast people. We're not even sure if this is the proper etiquette of podcasting, I guess.
I have no idea. This is how we're gonna do it.
Yeah. So this is our own spin on podcasting. Our podcast studio is actually in our shop, and so good or bad weather, this is what you will hear. And so if you hear the rain going on right now, it's because apparently we're being hit with a monsoon.
Yeah.
Unplanned.
Flood warnings and all that.
Yeah.
All of it together.
And so, it comes with the good and the bad. We're using our lift. One of our lifts has our podcast table.
I like to call it a standing desk. It's for the, it's health reasons.
Yeah, exactly. But we're both sitting down at the standing desk.
Yeah. Let's not get crazy. We started by lifting it, and we'll work our way up.
Baby steps, baby steps. So thought about the machines being the backdrop, but that's just where they stay parked at. So, yeah, we put a lot of thought on this
Nothing
because
is
we care.
This is where the cameras are standing.
We care about y'all.
We just figured we'd sit here.
Exactly, we care about y'all, and so we try to give you the best quality atmosphere we can, and we put a lot of hard work in setting this all up for you.
Yeah.
So that's the studio. When it's raining, we're just gonna try to work through it. I don't know, we will eventually get the podcast equipment, like the microphones and stuff. So provide feedback. Is the audio good? Can you make comments on a podcast?
Sure.
I guess so. If there is
If
ability
it's
to do
not good,
that.
go to YouTube, find this video, and put a comment on it. Or go to our site.
Yeah, exactly. Shoot us a text or email. If the audio is good, we'll keep going with this. If we need to improve on it, I know that's big for me on, being able to hear when I'm watching something, clearly hear them and it be crisp and not be staticky and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna have static problems. I think the rain right now maybe sound like white noise. If you're just watching this or you're just listening to this on a podcast app, that might be an issue for these first few. But other than that, I think this is going to be a great format. But now we'll get into what inspired this format. As I said in the beginning, me and Doug are not podcast people. Not that it's isn't a good format. It's just what we do for work just doesn't accommodate for that to be included in our day-to-day, lives. And so with that said there's a channel that I watch. I think most of us, even if y'all are subscribed to me, most likely watch other side-by-side channels and our off-road UTV style channels. Well, one I subscribed to years ago, watched on and off some of their stuff. Some stuff I found interesting, caught my attention, some not so much, but they did. I'm not saying they were the first ones that did this. I'm just saying it's the first ones that I saw do it, and it really connected me to who they were, and that was Dirt Dudes, formerly known as Michigan Dirt. So I subscribed to them back when they were Michigan Dirt. But when I came across one of their podcast style videos, the first one wasn't the hot wing one, but the hot wing one really bought me in because you just see that they're genuine guys and they're just wanting to help the riding community too. And I see a lot of value in that because that's what our mission is to help the community. And so I just want to give thanks to those guys. I mean, it made me a bigger fan of them, listening to them talk about the racing portion that their journey down right now. And so me not being a podcast person and then watching them and connecting deeper with them from a viewer standpoint made it seem like this might be a legit format for trailkings.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
No, I agree, and so you told me about them, and so I looked up some of their videos. I've been watching them just here recently, and you're right. It's one thing to watch the trail riding or watch the racing or whatever, but the podcast style lets you see deeper into why they do the things they do, and really just like you said, genuine people. And I think that's what's cool to see. And you can tell that some in the races, and they're talking to the other people out there. You can tell they enjoy being there and being around that group. But I think that the podcast lets you see a little further into that and makes you want to watch their videos a little more.
Yeah, and I'm going to tag them in the description below, because if you already haven't been following them, please go check them out. Please hit their subscribe button. I think they bring a lot of value to the riding community, and we need to help every channel that does that grow as big as they can go. They even have a Patreon you can support them by, and their videos are longer, and so please go check them out. But what I was getting at is, where I see they're providing a lot of value is like you're following along on this journey with them through their racing. And like I said before, I guess the past year I've been more in tune to them, watching their videos since I came across the podcast deal. But I'm from the South, where I'm not a NASCAR fan, so don't judge me for that. But I remember being young and my parents being NASCAR fans, their friends being NASCAR fans, and they're talking about Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt during their heyday. And so that stood out to me, because it's like they knew their history. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying these are the next, Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon. I'm not saying that at all, but it's like if you could watch Dale and Jeff like from the start when they were doing dirt and up, like being able to catch those moments of struggles and not being sponsored, I think that would be pretty damn cool to see unfold.
Track.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. And so, and these guys, are getting better with every race. I mean, it's not just fluff saying that. If they sucked, I would say they sucked. I mean, it was one, they were at Dirt Fest, and you know, obviously we all know these things are pre-recorded when they drop a YouTube video, but my youngest son had some of his football players over here. I mean, we're talking about first and second grade kids. It catches their attention. I'm watching this race, and they start watching. They ask who we're going for, and I say we're going for the black and white Rzr. It's named Betty. They're like, all right, Betty, come on, Betty. And so at that time, he's racing around trying to get past this blue Rzr, and it's like the third or fourth lap. He's chasing a blue one and does a hell of a move to get past him with going over this jump. And then all the kids just are like cheering for him like it's a live event. I mean, to the point where we thought they were going to break the couch and we had to get them to calm down. But the excitement that they had watching them, and it is exciting. It's exciting to see them get better and better each race they post. And they go out there. I mean, they full send. They don't hold back. And when they do, they call each other out. I know there was one race, poor guy's nickname, Break It Jake. I know he probably doesn't love that nickname because it really does. He breaks a lot of shit.
It's accurate. Yeah, it's an accurate name. Yeah.
I probably doesn't love the consequences of having a name like that. Yeah, but he was, and you could tell he wasn't driving like himself. And they call him Chief on the channel. His name's Zach. He called him out. Like, what's wrong? What's going on? Like, Jake just felt uncomfortable for whatever reason, but he ended up coming back strong. So that's the genuineness. They don't act like what they're not, and I give a lot of credit to that.
Yeah.
From my standpoint, there's too many posers out there, or people that act better than what they are, and these guys are pretty genuine. I like them, man.
No, I agree.
What was one of those episodes that you liked the most?
It was the one where he broke his drive shaft.
Oh, okay, yeah, that race. So that was
ORB, was it? It was
no, it's the Dirt Fest. So right after he passed that blue Rzr, and like we're all cheering for him in the living room, even though this is pre-recorded. It was like the next lap or two, boom, busted the drive shaft out, and it's almost like our heartbreak was with his.
Yeah.
Honestly,
we were gonna win.
Exactly.
Now we're not gonna win.
He was gonna win. So but I mean, that's it. That's what entertainment is, right? It gets you bought in at that level,
right?
And it's pretty cool to unfold. So make sure you go subscribe to their channel, Dirt Dudes. Go check out their Patreon. Go support someone else in the riding community that brings value like we try to. So hope you understand why we're doing this podcast. Please comment below any topics you want us to look into and give our thoughts on. Until then, stay safe on the trails.